Today is Monday, March 30th, and this is our read aloud for Out of My Mind. If you remember from last time, we left off with Melody describing a birthday gift from her 10th birthday where she received Garfield cartoons. But sometimes that's how I feel. Like, wouldn't it be cool if I had somebody to write the words over my head so people would know what I'm thinking? I could live with that. Large floating bubbles above me, speaking for me. Wouldn't it be cool if somebody could invent a bubble talking machine before fifth grade starts in a couple of weeks? Ha! When I try to talk, the words are exploding in my brain, but all that comes out are meaningless sounds and squeaks. Penny can say lots of words and pieces of words, but my lips won't come together to make even simple sounds like that. So most of my noises are vowels. I can say and ah pretty clearly, and if I concentrate sometimes I can squeeze at a b or a h, but that's it. My parents can usually figure out what I need just by listening carefully. To outsiders, I probably sound like one of those children who was raised by wolves. My communication board, even with everything Mrs. V has added to it, well, it sort of stinks still. For example, one afternoon earlier this summer, I had a taste for a Big Mac and a shake. Vanilla, of course. I love fast food. Mom wasn't home, and getting my father to figure out what I want is sometimes a big job. I pointed to the picture of my dad, the word go, the word eat, and a happy face. That's all I had to work with. I gotta give him credit. He tried. He asked me a million questions so I could point to yes or no. Melody, are you hungry? Yes. Okay, I'll fix you some tuna salad. No, I pounded on the tray. I thought you said you were hungry. Do you want some spaghetti? No, gentler this time. So what do you want? No answer. Nothing on my board could describe it. I pointed to go again. You want me to go in the kitchen and cook you something? No, I pointed. You want me to go to the grocery store? No. I was starting to get upset, pounding the board with my right thumb once more. I don't get it, sweetie. You said you wanted me to get you something to eat. Yes. Once again, I pointed to Dad's picture, then go, then eat, then a happy face. I could feel one of my tornado explosions starting. I started to kick, and my arms got all tight. It was driving me crazy that I couldn't tell him about a Big Mac. Calm down, sweetheart, Dad said softly. My jaws felt like steel bars. I knew I was breathing hard and my tongue wouldn't stay in my mouth. I hit my board once more, aiming at no word in particular. Ah! I screeched. I'm sorry, Melody, but I can't figure out what you mean. I'm going to fix you some noodles and cheese. Will that be okay? I sighed, gave up, and pointed to yes. I calmed down while he cooked. The noodles were actually pretty good. A couple of weeks later, my dad and I were in the car as we passed by McDonald's. I screeched and kicked and pointed like Godzilla was coming down the street. Dad must have thought it was nuts. Finally, he said, "Would you like to stop and get a Big Mac and a shake for dinner tonight as a treat?" I shouted, "Oh!" as loud as I could and kept on kicking with absolute delight as he pulled into the drive-thru. He never did make the connection between the fast food stop and my request a couple of weeks earlier. But that's okay. Even though it took us an hour to finish, it was one of the best hamburgers I've ever had. Chapter 11. Fifth grade started a few weeks ago, and a couple of cool things have happened. Well, I didn't get a gadget that makes Garfield like speech bubbles over my head, but I did get an electric wheelchair, and our school began something called inclusion classes. I thought that was funny. I've never been included in anything. But these classes are supposed to give kids like me a chance to interact with everybody else calls the quote unquote normal students. What's normal? Duh. Comparing my new chair to my old one is like comparing a Mercedes to a skateboard. The wheels are almost like car tires, which makes the ride smooth and easy, which makes the ride, oh, excuse me, like riding on pillows. I can't go very fast, but I propel myself down the hall with just a little lever on the handrail. Or if I flip the switch to manual, I can still be pushed if necessary. When Freddie first saw it, he shouted, "Woohoo!" Like I just won the Indy 500. Melly goes zoom zoom now, wanna race? He spun his own chair in excited circles around me. I'm sure he could beat me even at the subatomic speeds our chairs are set to. My electric chair is a lot heavier than my manual chair, and it's almost impossible for mom and dad to lift anywhere. When you decide to switch to a rocket ship for transportation, Dad joked at first, rubbing his back, you're going to need to hire Superman to get in the car. I grinned, but I know he saw the thanks in my eyes. So he bought a set of portable wheelchair ramps that fold and fit in the back of our SUV. With those, he can roll the new chair into the back of our car and still have back muscles left over. For me, it's all about freedom. Now I don't have to wait for somebody to move me across the room. I can just go there. Nice. So when they decided to start mainstreaming us into the regular classes, the electric chair was really helpful. Our fifth grade teacher in room H5 reminds me of a television grandmother. Mrs. Shannon is pudgy, wears lavender body lotion every single day, and I think she must be from the South because she talks with a real strong drawl. Somehow it makes everything she says seem more interesting. She told us on the first day, I'm gonna bust a gut making sure you all get all you can out of this school year, you hear? We're gonna read and learn and grow. I believe every one of y'all got potential all stuffed inside, and together we're gonna try to make some of that stuff shine. I liked her. She brought in stacks of new books to read to us, as well as games and music and videos. Unlike Mrs. Phillips, Mrs. Shannon must have read all our records because she dusted off the headphones and even brought in more books on tape for me. Y'all ready for music class? She asked us one morning. Let's get this inclusion stuff going. I jerked with excitement. As the aides helped us down the hall to the music room, I wondered if I'd get to sit next to a regular kid. What if I didn't do something right? What if Willie yodeled or Carl farted? Maria was likely to blurt out something crazy. Would this be our only chance? What if we messed this up? I could barely contain myself. We were going to be in a regular classroom. The music teacher, Mrs. Lovelace, had been the first to volunteer to open her class to us. The music room was huge, almost twice as large as our classroom. My hands got all kinds of sweaty. The kids in there were mostly fifth graders, too. They'd probably be surprised to know that I knew all their names. I've watched them on the playground, at lunch, and at recess for years. My classmates sit under a tree and catch a breeze while they play ball or tag, so I know who they are and how they work. I doubted if they knew any of us by name, though. Well, the whole thing was almost a disaster. Willie, probably upset and scared about being in a new room, started yelping at the top of his lungs. Still, she began to cry. She held tightly to the hand grips of her walker and refused to move past the doorway, and I just wanted to disappear. All of the normal children in the music class, I guess about 30 of them, turned to stare. Some of them laughed. Others looked away. But one girl in the back row crossed her arms across her chest and scowled at her classmates who were acting up. Two girls, Molly and Claire, everyone knew them because they were mean to almost everybody on the playground, mimicked Willie. They made sure they stayed just out of the teacher's line of sight, but I saw it. So did Willie.